Okay, that video was pretty cute. That's only the first half of it. There's a bit more. There's not much point in you watching it until you actually understand some theory, because you'll see me get busted by what I call indirect wind. And if you can understand why I get busted, you can understand how to avoid it in your own hunting and be a bit more successful. Now, when I started doing this, I did promise to do wind direction from the wind going up a gully to start with, because that's the easiest one to do, but unfortunately for the whole roar, the wind didn't oblige. So I've had to, this is quite a good video, and I've had to go to the more tricky version, which is what happens on the lee side of a hill, and you get thrown in the deep end. Apologise for that, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. It's not complicated, it's just more involved. Yeah, so here at Low Budget Productions, we splashed out with a very expensive model of the hillside. So this is a hill in the cross section, and this is the exposed side, and this is the lee side. Why do we need to pay attention to all that? Well, the deer love the lee side because it's sheltered, right? And you have to understand quite a bit about how the wind behaves on the lee side of the hill to avoid making a lot of mistakes. This goes back to 1984. I had a camp way down the gully down here and a ridge that took me up to here, and on this particular day the wind was blowing in this direction, and I erroneously thought that if I walked up that ridge and down on this side, the wind would be going over the top and going that way, and therefore I could walk back with the wind in my face till I'd had enough, and then just hop over the ridge and go back to camp. Of course, I get up to here and the wind's blowing the other way, it's coming this way. And so I had to walk all the way along, in and out on this side, this face, for quite some distance, several watersheds. And then I eventually shot a deer, and being young and sort of lacking in the top 2 inches, I decided I'd carry the whole thing all the way back to camp. So up on the ridge, all the way along the ridge, down this ridge, back to camp. Anyway, I was sitting there drinking a beer. I was going, you know what? There's got to be a way to work out which way the wind's blowing based on the information about which way the clouds are going and what the relief is doing, so that you don't make that mistake. And so that's what we're on about today. So this is a transformer hill. I paid extra for it. You can have hills which are super steep like this, medium size, which is very common in the Kaimanawas, right? Or you can have ones which are just a low slight rise like this, and the way the wind behaves on each of those cases is different, right? So in this case the wind will actually just sort of go up and over and still keep on going, but this is quite a gentle hill. When it's a medium-sized hill like this one, like the Kaimanawas, the wind will go over the top, will hug the hill for about 30 yards, and then leave the hill. I'll do it over here so that you can see. We'll leave the hill, we'll go down, some of it will go that way and the other bit will actually just sort of come back and be coming back up the hill this way. This is for wind at a right angle to the hill. So the point where it meets this sort of no wind zone or zone of separation, you might say, well, how can it be a zone of separation when the wind's going in the opposite directions? Well, it's because it's actually separating from the slope in this particular example. At the bottom of the hill, we've got a zone of separation where the wind is genuinely separating. Some of it's going that way and some of it's going that way. Again, it's signified by a no wind spot. This has got a no wind spot, and same here. This one's much more tricky to go on, so we're going to do the top one first. If you've got a steep hillside like this, you don't get that little 30 metres worth of base where the wind is sucking to the hill. It just goes straight over the top, and the air coming back up the hill goes straight to this point here. So you've got three scenarios, and this is all a bit dry ball if we don't put some hunting stories in it. And the main ridge kept on going this way. Right, so this is just a spur. And I was over here, I was on the top of the hill here, because this part of the hill was extremely steep. This part, which is the gully, is sort of a gentler slope. And then this here is, should be a little bit more higher. Try and illustrate it like that. So this is a spur that's coming off it. And what does that look like? It looks like the third case where we had the hill where it's sort of almost flat. It's not quite, just comes up like that and goes like this. So when the wind is coming from this direction, what you'll find with this line here is that this zone of separation doesn't occur until the hill starts to steepen off over quite a distance further over. And in this particular example, I was in the raw, and the problem when you go for a low budget. The stag was here, and the sun's here. This is first thing in the morning. So why is the stag here? Well, he's only dressed in a fur coat, and it's cold. So he's standing here because he's getting the sunshine, and he's also getting a gentle breeze coming in this way. So any approach from this side, well, he'll know what's coming, whether it be a hunter or another deer. And down here, he's got the advantage because he's got height and he can see down. So I'm there, and I knew that I couldn't go down here. So once one of my roars actually didn't work, and he replied. And what's more, he came and he poked his head out here, and I wasn't juggling the camera and the roaring horn and the rifle all at the same time. I would have shot him, but he decided to run over to here and stand 15 yards from me, behind this big beech tree, and all I could see was the tip of his nostrils poking around the side of the beech tree. So this is only 80 yards, this distance here. What was he trying to do? He was trying to cut my wind, but I knew enough that the wind was always going to be coming this way at this point. If I'd been over here, he would have cut my wind, because it would have been down that 30-yard zone down here, and my wind would have been going downhill. But at this point here, I knew that it was going up. So what followed was a bit of a roar from, and he didn't budge. And then he decided I was a complete plonker, which is probably pretty true. And he ran back. He ran back this way, and left me with a quartering running away shot, which is not very good, so I didn't take it. So he got away. Oddly enough, I wasn't actually that pissed off, because this was one time where the deer did not know who I was. He didn't manage to cut my wind, and it was all because of an understanding of what was happening with the wind in the different positions. Now I know a bit more about it. I should have charged him. I should have just, there was a log in front of him. I should have just leapt over the log, with the camera down of course, and run to the right hand side of the beech tree, and he would have just run off that way, because I would have cut him off. And he really wanted to go back this way, but he would have been forced to go that way. And when you charge them like that, they get a surprise, because they're not expecting it. And they'll run off, but only a few paces, and then they'll stand around there and look at you. So you get another chance, and over that way it was actually clear. So it was a learning experience for me on what to do and what not to do, but the best part was that I knew from my knowledge of what was happening with the wind that I was in the right place. And it's an illustration, I think, of of getting into that 80% zone, 80 to 100. So I've talked before about you're in the 20% zone if you just use a cigarette lighter, waste of bloody time. If you get in the 60% zone, you know which way the wind's blowing where you are, right? But to get to that 80% zone, you've got to actually know which way the wind's blowing where you are, what's happening to your scent after it leaves you, and which way the wind's blowing where the deer is. It sounds complicated, but in reality it's not that hard to work out most of the time. Okay, if you just follow a few sets of rules. Today we're trying to work out what's happening to the wind on the lee side of the hill. So in this scenario we'll make it nice and simple. We've got our medium-sized hill. What happens if the wind's in an oblique angle? Right, so we've had the right angles where we've got the 30 yards down the hill, then you've got the no wind zone and you've got the wind coming up. What happens if it's like this? So this is back to the scenario we had with my camp was down here, I went up and the wind's going the wrong way. It's exactly the same as this, except the angle's like this. So the wind over here is going this way. Right? It's still got the 30 yard drop down before it finds the no wind zone, but that's essentially what's happening. Right? And if we go on before about how you learn something complicated by just learning a series of small phrases. And what's the phrase for the lee side of the hill? On the lee side of the hill, the rule of opposites applies. The wind will go in the opposite direction to the clouds. So when it's like this, it's going this way. When it's going like this, it's going that way. Aside from the little thing about how far down the zone of separation is occurring, depending on how steep it is. This one up here is really good. It's very common in the Kaimenos because that's the slope of the hills. And that's also the point at which if you're walking in and out of the gully heads, you're at the point where the water starts. And if you looked at the episode 3, I think it is, where I'm being on about the importance of water. It's a really good spot to be. The other thing is that the wind is going in opposite directions. So if this thing moves, it's not going to move very far. Even in gusty wind conditions, this thing is pretty stable. It's not moving. It's totally opposite to the one at the bottom. The only thing is that this hill is straight, and a lot of the hills are like this. That 30 metre zone will follow the contour of the actual hill, or the however the hill moves. Right? So that if you're walking along and you're just doing the same contour, but the top that has come down to meet you, then that zone of separation has dropped a little bit. It's not too much of a worry for you, because you know it's not going to go very far. It's not going to be a situation where all of a sudden you were in a no wind situation, or the wind was coming up this way, and then all of a sudden you're now in a position where the wind is going that way, right? Because you know that zone of separation has only just moved a few paces, and so the deer down here are not going to know that you're there. So it's a really good hunting positive position, especially if this is east, first thing in the morning. It's going to get the sun, and the deer will be up here in those jellyfern gully heads, and you'll find tracks going into each gully head, and you'll find a little bit of a creek, just a little bit of water coming out. Nothing has to be that sort of wide, and the deer will drink out of that. So the top one's the easy one, right? And the homework assignment is you go and find one and you walk down feeling the wind at your back of your head until such time as you feel no wind. That's when you've got the zone of separation, and then a few more paces and you'll feel the wind in your face. And then you need to walk around on the face, picking where you think that zone of separation is going to be. So you'll go in and you'll be going around and you'll see spurs like this, and you know from what I've told you that the zone of separation is going to be way down here somewhere. So when you get up on the spur and the wind is going that way, then you walk down this until you find it, that zone of separation. You can come back up and keep on walking at this contour over here, but it's a learning thing for you to work out where that zone of separation is actually occurring. And by the time you've been through, I don't know, 3 or 4 gully heads, you should be able to just pick it like that. It's that easy. The bottom of the hill's different. Alright, so we'll go back to the situation where we've got right angles. The air's coming down, it comes down here, goes over here, and turns round at the bottom. Right? And you've got the zone of separation. This is different because the air is going this way. It's going like that. Some of it's going that way, some of it's going that way. And as I said before, it's not stable. Even in relatively stable air conditions, the breeze is reasonably consistent, this thing will still move. When it's gusty, it moves like crazy all over the place. And that causes some problems, because if you've walked up here with the wind in your face because the zone of separation is here and you've stood here, and then the thing moves, right? And suddenly it's over here, the wind suddenly comes from behind you and is going up the face over here, so all the deer up here know that you're here. And vice versa, you might be coming down to look at a flat over here, and you're coming down, you've got the wind in your face, you think you're cool, you get to the zone of separation at the bottom, and you take one step and your wind's gone that way. So you're busted. The deer down there know that you're there and you're not going to get anything. It's this, not unpredictable, it's sort of unpredictable. The moving around of the wind, which means you shouldn't be there. And so the phrase to remember is that on the lee side of the hill, the bottom of the hill is not the place to be, for the very fact that the thing is going everywhere. And I know a lot of hunters who, they don't even think about that. They just go, oh, I'll go over there. I'll go and hunt the flats. I'll read all the books, Go and hunt the flats. Without first thinking which way the wind's blowing and what's going to be happening at the bottom of the hill. And you get busted pretty quick. This video here, there's quite a lot that I've edited out because it's too shaky, but I got busted in about 8 minutes. And I know what you're saying, well, it's not the place to be, what were you doing down there, Huey? Come on. I was actually to start the roar and I was setting up my game cameras. It just happened to be a bonus. My intention was to go all the way down the gully, which is another 3/4 of an hour walk. There's quite a good spot further down. But what do you think my chances were of my walking all the way down there with over 3/4 of an hour and not have my seat beat me? Big fat donut. So that's why I didn't bother. I just went and set the cameras up, not far from where I disturbed this deer. So what happens if you're forced to hunt down there? All the mates have gone off and they've taken all the best bits and you've ended up with the worst choice. What do? Well, you're either going to hunt way over here or way up here, but not there. So you can walk along up on the, further up away from where this point is and look out, or you can walk along here and looking over there, it's still Russian roulette territory, or you're on the face on the other side. So if there's a hill over here and you've set yourself up, you can sit here watching this spot, and that's what happens with that waterhole clearing, which is going to be in part 2 of this. I sat on this side of the hill watching deer for a day and a half. Didn't get busted. When I went over onto that side, because again I was going to collect the game cameras, I got busted within maybe 5 minutes. And sitting over here is pretty productive, because you know that they can't actually get your scent if you're forced to do it, but you got to sit there. Whereas on here, you think, oh well, I'm doing real hunting because I'm moving through, and in reality, it's not that productive. You're better off sitting on the hill on the other side. In this case here with the deer, I'd approach from the side, and I'd come up to just this side of this no wind spot. So the wind was going, when I'm looking at the deer the first time round, the wind is going from right to left. It's from the camera's 3 o'clock, so it's going that way. Okay, and not long after the film starts, the wind actually changed direction. The deer was here, and the wind was coming from over here going this way. And you see the deer, and what I want you to watch when you look at the video is the body language of the deer. So there's 2 distinct halves. There's the first half, which you've just seen, which you're going to see again, where the deer just picks his nose up and is just casually sniffing the air. And deer they look with their nose. They can't see, their eyesight's shit. He's just sticking his nose directly in the wind he's receiving, and most of that at that time was actually coming around here, and where I was, my wind was doing the same, but it was going around this way, and it was kind of Russian roulette with the wind. When he puts his head down, he starts turning to look like he was going to have another feed. The wind actually changed direction, and it was going up the hill, so doing what it was supposed to be doing. And then a fraction later, there's a bit that's peeled off, and it's gone down past him. And just as he sticks his nose down, he gets a little whiff, a very faintest whiff of me. I must stink like crazy. And then he's sticking his nose up, and you can see him, and the body language is totally different. And you can see him flaring his nostrils. Again, at least on the big screen, where he's sniffing the air, trying to pick up a second opinion of the smell of me. So what he's getting is he's getting indirect scent. So if you're there and the wind goes directly to the deer, the response of the deer is totally different. It's a woof and bang on. But in this particular example, the air is peeled off and gone round towards the deer. The deer's got it as an indirect scent. So he's only got a little bit of it, and he says, oh, I should be out of here, and then he's just hopped off. And if you want to know why you're not seeing the deer, 85% of the time it'll be because you've given them indirect scent. 100%. It's more common than you think that you've been given away by indirect scent. The other thing to note is that deer is only 35 yards away from me. The camera's on full zoom. If it wasn't, it's just a little speck. And he looks, what we think, he looks straight at me because his head points towards it. But in actual fact, when his head's pointing towards me, he's actually looking that way. It's when he turns to the side that his eye is looking straight towards me. So your eyes are on the side of the head. And I'm dressed in hunter safety colour, right, white face, white hands, sitting on the grass. The only thing that's in my favour is that I'm sitting in the shade of the tea tree. That's it. There's virtually nothing between me and the deer. Little, wisps and rushes, and that's about it. A colour-sighted person would have seen me straight away, because I'm only 35 yards away. But the deer didn't see me. I think it was in the intro I made a comment about the fact that deer's eyesight's crap. And a few guys who actually watched the intro had a go at me. Said I was an idiot, didn't know what I was talking about. Deer's eyesight was good. It's not. And here's ample demonstration. And the thing is that eyesight's good if you move. If you stay still, they can't see you. So you don't need, I think it was Hunter's Element advertising their dissolve, I think it is, camo clothing, and this is what you need to hide away from the deer. It's a lot of crap. The deer can't see you. I could have been dressed in a PVC parka, yellow PVC parka, and the deer still would not have seen me. And you can see the videos by J. Wilds, which you should go have a look at because they're fabulous. Good quality filming, all the rest of it. But they're out there, they've got the face shield things on, which is all camo and things to hide, gloves and all that sort of stuff. They're chasing red deer. You don't need it. You don't need that bullshit. And there's an advert in one of the American things where they do a lot of tree stand sitting, and again trying to flog camo clothing and saying, oh, deer can see blue. Oh, that's right, they can. They can see blue, yellow, green. They just can't see red. But A, they don't look up very often, and B, even if they did see it, right, they would not pick that it's human. They would not pick that it's odd. You have to actually move for them to actually understand that this is a bit of a problem that they should pay attention to. I used to hunt for years on blue and black cheek swanee, because there's nothing blue in the bush. It's a safety consideration. And it was not a handicap, because the deer's eyesight is shit. So going back to the issue here, or the woods, which are the bottom of the gully is not the place to be because the wind is erratic, and I've given you the explanation on what you should do to improve your performance. Either sit on the hillside opposite, or hunt here or here. Up here, way up here, is an absolutely fantastic place to be. So there's part 2, which will be after this, which is another case where I get busted. Same thing, it's a lee side conditions problem, and that illustrates almost exactly the same thing as what the problem that I had here. That's worth a watch, but you'll have to wait a little bit for that one. Okay.